Mishmash Men, or M Cubed. Hello. Today, you're here with me. I'm Dustin Labar. To my immediate direct left is Mr. Adam Mauser.
How do you do?
And then today we have a very special guest sitting with us.
First time ever.
First guest ever on Mishmash Men, Mr. James Drake.
Hello.
We have an in-studio audience for today.
That's
it's
true.
It's a live studio audience. So James is our first guest on Mishmash Men podcast. So we're super excited about having him. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
James has been a guest at least twice on Reaching for the Bars.
That is true.
Twice, yep. We had fun with him on those episodes. So we decided to bring him in because I don't think we touched on everything. James is a pretty cool guy.
He is a man of many talents.
Yeah, so for instance,
I would argue one of the most interesting men.
Yeah, between you, Adam, and James, you're like the two coolest guys I know. You're like enigmas wrapped in mysteries.
I strive to be of interest as Adam is.
So James is by his day job, is an engineer.
That's right, mechanical engineer.
Yep. That is true.
He also owns a farm.
I do. The Drake Place.
The Drake Place. And then he is a reformed DJ.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or do you still DJ?
I think.
Actually, no. I have very rarely on occasion, but I would say no.
So if we were like, hey, we're having a party, would you bust the old chops out?
Yeah, I would.
Do you have actual discs to spin? Oh, man.
Can you do the record thing?
I do.
Oh, my God.
Actually, I'll give you one crisp dollar bill.
We should just do it. I mean, let's do it. Let's figure it out.
Have like a party.
You also are, I heard, a good roller skater.
I've roller skate. I'm not good.
You're not good.
But
No.
can you dance while you skate?
Not really. It's pretty bad.
I don't believe that. I feel like that's not true. Because you are a good dancer.
Yeah, very good dancer.
So
I wish I could move like James. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, good. There's many levels. It's not just good or bad. I mean, there's many subtle levels.
You ever seen Elaine dance on Seinfeld?
Yeah,
There's
me.
good and bad.
That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I dance, people say, hey, that's a good robot dance, Adam. I was trying to do something else.
I was totally going for something different.
I feel like, Adam, you would dance and then start writing a book in the middle. You're like, why is Adam writing a book? It's what he does when he dances.
Yeah.
He writes many long novels.
That's true.
We know you from the gym, obviously. My favorite thing is when somebody catches you on video dancing. And,
yeah,
I see that.
That happens every now and then.
That does more often than not.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
Especially
when we have the 80s playing.
Yeah,
that's my jam.
Wheelhouse right there.
So I guess we'll start off. So your day job is you're a mechanical engineer.
I am.
So, I'm interested. Like, can you give us a little bit what you work on currently?
Yeah, sure can. Work on a bunch of different things, but basically right now I've been working on a bunch of hypersonics projects.
Oh, yes.
And I know it sounds cool, but it's really not. Doing a lot of test setups, test infrastructure. Because the thing is that the military is building a lot of these hypersonic missiles, and they need ways to test them.
Right.
And so I don't really work on the cool stuff. I'm basically like trying to figure out how can we test either materials or pieces of the missile, like the engine or anything like that.
Were you the one that told me that you do it on a very small scale?
Yes.
And then that gets applied to a bigger scale?
It does.
So how small scale are we talking? Like are you doing it, is it like Lego men size?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. What's funny is that I actually just got back from a conference and got to see some of the other wind tunnel test capabilities. And
Where at? Where you?
I was up in Dayton.
That's right, Pat.
That's right.
That's where I grew up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. He was sending me messages. You got to try this place. You got to try that. I was like, I'm only here for so many days.
I can't do it all.
And I don't have a car.
Roller skate there.
That's right. You could DJ your way down.
Yeah.
But I saw, we had all these different people up there talking about the wind tunnels that they work on. And you would think they would be huge.
Right.
Now, granted, the facility is gargantuan because it takes a lot of power, a lot of resources to be able to accomplish that. But then when you actually see where the magic happens,
right,
it's like a small pipe.
Yeah.
Like all that for this.
You like walk in.
What's
you're
the scale?
Oh.
What's the scale that they had up there?
Let's see. Now, Wright Pass pretty big. They have some decent resources. But some of the wind tunnels that were being shown, I would say like for the test area that they're working in, you're looking at maybe 1 foot to 2 foot.
Yeah.
And that's about it. You know, I mean, like a square.
Right. So
Yeah.
like it's neck down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been to the facility, the full scale model or a full scale wind tunnel out at Ames in California?
Not at Ames, but I did get to go into a couple of wind tunnels up at NASA Langley.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were their subsonic, large scale.
Right.
Those are massive. And they drive those with just very big fans.
So can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah.
So you have a wind tunnel, and are you shooting a very tiny rocket through this
I
wind
know.
tunnel to see if it performs?
You basically have it, on a stand,
Okay.
and it's instrumented. We got little teeny tiny instruments,
Okay.
and so it's basically this small little sample sitting out there in the center,
Okay.
and you're reading data off of it.
So you're seeing how it performs again in the wind.
Yeah, it depends on what the test is. So
Okay.
like, it could be like the shuttle tiles.
Mm-hmm.
That they test those in wind tunnels with high heat to see
Oh,
how
I
they're going to
understand.
perform,
I
and
understand.
are they going to fall apart or what?
Gotcha.
So for like a hypersonics missile, the ablative coating that goes on them,
Mhm.
you want to see what that's going to do, and see what kind of performance you get off of it. Or if it's a like an airfoil,
Mm-hmm.
you want to see how does that perform with air flowing over it.
Okay.
What kind of aerodynamic characteristics you get. So
How-
it depends.
Go ahead, Adam.
So what kind of so there's constraints in that when you scale something down
Oh,
to
yeah.
that much. So there's a lot of assumptions that have to go into it. What is it more of a structural problem like the material that you're using, or is it the heat disbursement? Is it the vibes? Is it what is it that the problem that you guys are trying to head off and solve for?
As far as like scaling?
For these small scale wind tunnel tests that you're doing.
Well, it's kind of a function of since it takes so much energy to try and create that kind of flow on the ground. That's why you're limited to such a small scale.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns into, there are a lot of scaling factors associated with it. So like for a coupon test, if you're just trying to see if the material works, that gets pretty simple.
So and a coupon test is just a small subset.
It could just, it really is just like a piece of material that you stick out there.
As a sample.
Yep.
Yep.
And then if you're trying to check characteristics of flight or anything like that, then it gets a little bit more complicated, and you have to, as far as like trying to make that model, so say this is where manufacturing tolerances come into play. So like your full scale model can have variances, kind of like when you're building,
Mhm.
not everything is going to be exactly square.
Right.
So
It doesn't have to be in a house.
so like,
Not to the framer.
Yeah.
Chris
So-
Chris might object.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Chris doesn't know what he's talking about.
I've seen his work.
Yeah.
Anyway,
He is pretty
So-
good. He is pretty good.
but so on a full scale, so like if you have full scale airplane, you have normal manufacturing tolerances associated with that. But then when you start to scale down and try to mimic that frame in a very small size, like a small model,
Mhm.
the same scaling and tolerancing applies. So it gets that much more difficult.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's got to be
Right.
that much better. So, like if it's 1/10 the size of the plane, then your tolerancing has to be 10 times better. So
Let me make this let me dumb this down for the dumb people. If I had a giant piece of thin metal,
Yeah.
and the wind blew really hard at it and bent it pretty easily,
Yeah.
and I took that same thickness metal but made it like this small,
Yeah.
it'd be a lot harder for that wind to bend it because it's smaller. Is that what you're talking about? Does that make sense?
yes,
Okay.
Yeah, you have to scale everything.
So
Yeah.
you have like some kind. That's what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Like you have to figure out if that bends at a certain or if, whatever. I don't know. I use bend as an example, but
So let me try it, and you tell me if I'm wrong. So because the materials that you're going to use, they have to scale also, like the thickness that you're talking about.
oh, understand.
And so, but
Oh, I
there's
gotcha.
properties of that material that if you shrink it down too much, then now it's not going to be inaccurate unless you start trying to model it or assume it away, because it might not be exactly what you are, the item of interest.
Okay.
Is that
yes,
close enough?
I
yeah,
understand what
pretty
you're
much.
saying. Okay.
I mean,
I got you.
yeah.
That's much clearer.
I'll be honest with you. I don't really run the wind tunnels.
Yeah.
I basically like, how fast do you need to go?
Yeah.
How
Consider
much?
it done?
It's like, how much air do we need to push?
That's funny. So, you've done multiple different jobs, like engineering jobs.
Yes, I have.
What do you think, without going into too much detail if you can't, what was the coolest thing you worked on?
That's easy.
Oh, okay.
But you're right. I started my career when I graduated in '98.
You went to which college?
Auburn.
Auburn.
The only.
Yeah. You hear that, Andrew?
That's right. That's right, Andrew. No, graduated Auburn in '98. That's 1998.
Okay.
So back in the 1900s.
1998.
Yeah, you know somebody's old if they say 1998.
I would throw the and in there around my kids, especially. 1970 was when I was born.
So we had a young junior engineer, and he even said that. He goes, "Oh, you were born in the 1900s," and I was just like, "Please go away."
You're like, oh, fired.
I know. I was like, I signed your time card, right?
Yeah. That's funny.
But so I started back in '98,
Yeah.
and so a lot of years, and spanned across different projects. Done some stuff for NASA that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But probably the best and most rewarding and most difficult time was for the Navy.
Okay.
And actually the Navy, the Naval Special Forces, the
Oh, wow.
SEALs. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Got to do a lot of work with those guys. And that was, for an engineer, that was a dream come true.
Yeah.
Because we got to build a lot of equipment that they use and they rely on.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And it was a submersible vehicle. So this is kind of James Bond kind of stuff, believe it or not. But yeah, designed and built a miniature submarine.
Dang.
For the SEALs.
That's
cool.
pretty cool.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Probably the most rewarding, and like I said, probably the most difficult time.
Okay.
Career-wise and just personal life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. We still make them, and we're still fielding them, and they still use them.
So the thing that you made it back then is still being
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
pretty cool.
they actually, it's the you can actually look it up on YouTube. You can look SEAL delivery vehicle.
Okay.
And you'll see Discovery Channel did a couple of shows on it and explain what it is.
Oh, wow.
And they started the program back in Vietnam with UDTs and the early SEALs.
Mm-hmm.
They had small little miniature subs that they would use.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it's just kind of progressed. As the mission set changes, the vehicle changes.
Sure.
And so it's kind of like the best way to describe it would be take a Jeep. Jeep started in World War II, and that was personnel carrying.
Mm-hmm.
But it's morphed. And,
Sure.
you had the Humvee.
Right.
And now the AMRAP. So it depending on what the mission set is, that platform changes.
Right.
And so I would say back in 2010, we were selected to supply the new model.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
So yeah,
what kind of stuff did you do for that? Because you're an ME, mechanical engineer.
Yep.
So what did you do?
I did a lot of the mechanical systems for it. Primarily everything that involved the life support system, the breathing air,
Okay.
and the ballast.
And like filtering CO2 and that sort of thing?
Well, it's a wet sub.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I mean by James Bond. Like if you watch some of the old
Yeah.
Roger Moore movies and stuff like that, where they're on scuba gear,
Yeah.
it's flooded. So they're in the water the whole time on scuba.
Okay.
But when they're in the boat, they can breathe air off the boat.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So it's hooked up to a
Yeah.
system.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
That's
So
interesting.
so it had its own life support system, the ballast system that as a submarine needs ballast tanks to go up and down and keep it trim. Design worked on that, and then excuse me, a lot of the integration work was trying to get the interfaces with the other platforms that it would interface with, because basically the Navy has large submarines.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they field this thing.
So you are also into scuba diving.
Oh yeah,
Is that
love
when
it.
you got into it?
That is when I got into it.
Because you saw you had probably had to test that or something, or
Well,
Or just
it-
around it.
no, it was one of those I was one of the few guys in the company that was, I would say, like a pressure and piping engineer.
okay.
And I kind of drew the short straw that when we won the job, they were going around assigning who was doing what.
Okay.
and they said, well, we need an air guy. And I just finished a job doing compressed gas piping.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "You're it." And I go, "Well, that was a chemical plant."
Different.
And this is now life support. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And so I
like
jumped
basically
into
the same thing.
I know. And so I jumped into it and started, researching it and everything else. And one of the Navy advisors, one of our customers, he was top tier Navy guy, a super awesome guy. I was having lunch with him one day, and he basically said, he was like, "So you're designing life support system for divers?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Are you a diver?" I go, "No." And he goes, "You may want to fix that."
Wow.
And he says, "You're not going to understand the terminology, technology,
Sure.
or what folks are going through if you're not in the water."
Did that help?
Immensely. And so I was like, all right. And up until then, I was terrified of diving.
Yeah.
I was just like, sharks.
Yeah, I'm pretty scared of it too, to be honest with you.
I don't like dark water.
Yeah. But it was one of those, I'm like, all right, we're doing this.
Dang.
And so went down to the local dive shop and Southeastern Divers. They're awesome.
Shout out.
Yeah, shameless plug there. And
I'm sure they'll pay us for that.
Yeah.
I know.
That'll be $1 million or I'm bleeping it out.
Signed up with them, started doing the basic course, and it was very, very, very enjoyable. Had a great time.
Yeah.
And, the first time got out in open water and dove down, saw fish and everything else. And
Now,
just
where was that at?
that was actually in Birmingham, the Pelham Quarry.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
This is when I said that you're like one of the most interesting guys I know. Like
Yeah.
you said the one day you were like, I'm going scuba diving.
Yeah.
And I just like accepted that. And then I was like talking to Laura and I was like, yeah, James said he's going scuba diving.
Yeah.
Like he just scuba dives also. Like
Oh, yeah.
he's, yeah. So that's interesting that's how it started. That's very cool.
Yeah, that's actually how it started. And then it morphed, actually, as we were designing the vehicle. With anything, as you design it, you build it, and then you have to test it. And I was lucky enough to be part of the test group.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So we had 3 retired SEALs that we hired. They were contractors that we hired.
Cool.
So we had 3 SEALs and 3 engineers. And the 6 of us were the dive team that tested the vehicle.
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
Now-
that was fun.
So here's a question. I've been involved in acquisition. You're
Mm-hmm.
involved in acquisition. What's the biggest constraint that you had, or the biggest challenge that you had on that particular project? Was it a technological problem you're trying to solve? Was it requirements that were shifting? Was it the amount of money? Like what was the biggest challenge that you had? It might not have been a constraint, but
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Technical was a big deal. And trying to match, the hardest, it's the same thing that goes in life in general, is trying to match reality with expectations.
yes,
And so,
the art of the possible sometimes gets kind of
it does.
skewed.
It really does, because that's also where you get into, like, okay, now we're starting to play against physics, and it's always going to win. And I'm sure, Dusty, you run across this when you're building. You've got customers that want certain things, and you're like, well, what you're envisioning in your mind, and when it turns into reality, it's not going to be the same.
Right.
We did run into that a good bit. And there were times that actually, like, misunderstandings.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we would think, oh yeah, they're going to love this. They're going to want this feature. We need to put this in, and we would kill ourselves putting it in. And then they're like, yeah, we really don't need that.
Yeah.
They're like, we would have rather you done this over here. And we're like,
We don't really need a TV on
I
the
know.
subway. James is like, I spent days.
I know. I thought you guys played ping pong on
Yeah.
this sub.
exactly. Funny note on that.
They did play ping pong
No.
underwater.
No, but there was one time we were looking at foreign military sales.
Uh-huh.
All right, and the requirement set will always change on foreign military sales because they have a different mission.
Plus, there's export stuff.
Yeah.
Constraints.
So you're talking about using your thing somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of like, like we sell jets to other countries. We the U.S.
Yeah. James, like me personally, I take them home.
That reminds me, I got to call that guy.
Yeah.
quick wash and wax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flip it.
Yeah, it's just like new.
Yeah.
Get them off Alibaba, turn them on Amazon. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Slightly used.
Yeah.
Slightly use FNA 18.
Yeah.
But we were looking. We had one potential customer come talk to us, and they started discussing their requirement set with us, and they asked if we had any questions. I go, I do. I said, you have in here entertainment system. And they go, yeah. In the back? And they go, yeah. And I go, for the passengers? And they're like, yeah. And I go, to do what? And they go, well, these missions are long. We get bored.
Were they 12-year-old boys?
I just stopped and go,
like a Sega.
I mean, seriously, I was like, you're serious? And they're like, yeah, you know, like an iPhone touchscreen. You got anything like that?
Oh my God.
And we're like, I mean, seriously, if you could have seen the engineers just looking across the table at one another, we're like, we've never had this. We've never done this before.
He's like, you know, like my car.
I
got touchscreen. I want it to be cool. Play some tunes.
I want to watch Sinbad.
Yeah, the new Shrek came out, and I'd really like to watch it.
Seriously, they were. That's actually what they were going for. They were like, is there anything we can have that, you know, for guys that aren't actively doing anything while we're just waiting to get, you know, on the action area?
So were you like a total dad movie, like just sit back and be bored?
Yeah.
That's where you get some of your best thinking.
If I have to turn around.
No, I think we were pretty much being the dutiful contractor. Like,
right.
we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Just like, I have no
put
idea.
that a line item on that bill.
Yeah. So I think we've talked about this before in private, but when we were, you know, just me and you together alone. But no, you said, I think we had talked about this before, but sometimes the expectation of your customer, whoever that may be, if it's the government or whatever, they may say, I want this to fly. I don't know. I'm just going to say something. I want this to fly this many miles an hour. And you're like, well, that's not possible. And they're like, I said, I want it to fly this many miles an hour. And you're like, I guess we'll try to make it fly that fast or do whatever. And you just have to like, just even if you're like, that's not possible, they're still like, well, I want you to try. And you just have to be like, okay, I just still have to try.
Yes.
Every day. Frustrating?
Every day.
I'm guessing that's common.
So I won't go into details, but a program that I was on, that was the struggle. The struggle was the voice of the customer was expecting things out of the item that were just completely out of control.
Right.
We want it to go this fast, and we want to carry all this stuff. And what I equate it to, and we had a gross weight problem as a result. Like, it's just way too much.
Yeah.
And so I kept hearing back from the representative, well, the OEMs, they have this weight problem. I said, no, you have a weight problem. That's like going to because we were just managing this, but it's like going to a buffet that pays by weight, you know, like Piccadilly or whatever. And you're going, like, I'll have that roast beef, I'll have that turkey, I'll have the pie, I'll have the mashed potatoes, I'll have the yams, I'll have all of this stuff. And at the end, you get mad at the cashier because your bill's $50.
I gotcha.
Like, you're going to have to pick some things. Yeah. And you got to give an elevator speech, 30 seconds or less, what this end item is supposed to do. And that should be like the preeminent thing that you want it to do should be top, and then all other things just need to be negotiable.
So what I just explained to you guys is something that you're totally, this is like just part of everyday life when you do what you guys do. Okay. So how do you manage that? So if it's not possible, you fail. Right? Is that what the end result is? Like if what they're asking is not possible.
Just managing those expectations.
It is. So it is. So typical example, like you said, they'll come in and they'll ask for something that, yes, at first blush, you're like, well, that's not really feasible.
Yeah.
First we try to, you know, I'll engage with them and explain, like, look, it's going to be difficult. Yeah. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying it's going to take us some time and it's going to cost some money.
Right.
And what are you willing to give if I can't give that?
Exactly.
100%.
Right. And that's usually what it turns into is like, well, okay, we may have to make some trades.
Okay.
Just as Adam was saying, like with weight, in terms of like, you know, same thing on the submersible, it was that way. And say like with the wind tunnel, they want to be able to do all this stuff. I'm like, well, you're only this big. To do all that, you got to get this big, which means you got to have 10 times more stuff to push it.
Gotcha.
So do you want to do that?
And explain it in terms of risk. Like you have the risk of losing this over here if you keep pushing on this one over here.
Right.
Because it's a balance.
Yeah, and sometimes it turns into, okay, just do as best as you can. Let me see what you can come up with. And so what we try to do, and this is the problem. I'm actually now more in management than actually I would say on the working level
Gotcha.
of trying to actually execute the solution. But what that turns into is like, okay, I understand what the customer's wanting. Then I have to turn to the team and be like, okay, this is the bar that we're going to aim for. And then I got to deal with the team. Well, that's impossible. I'm like, I hear you.
But they're writing checks.
Yeah, but this is the task at hand.
Yeah. Do you like getting paid? Do you like getting
I know,
paid?
and I'm like, this is
Know
what
the
we got to
program
shoot
to
for. But and really it comes down to, okay, if you can do it, great, and you can explain what the trade-offs are. If you can't and you can only go so far, you got to be able to show evidence and explain this is why we can't get there.
Gotcha.
And as long as, because you could throw some analysis up and say, yeah, we did it this way. And they're like, well, I don't believe your analysis. I'm going to have my guy look at it.
Right.
That happens a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy over here says he can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's that, too.
Yeah.
So another guy's like,
Well, you're paying him, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I call that like the father-in-law syndrome or the dad syndrome. It's no, I got a guy that can do that.
Yeah, I got a guy. Yeah, trust me, he can do it.
I know. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I've only been doing it for 20 years.
So, how do you make the jump from, is it multiple jumps? So you went from engineering a submersible vehicle to doing some kind of hypersonic rocket thing. Is there like multiple jumps in between?
Yes.
Or so you're like, okay, I'm going to do submersibles, and then the next jump is this, and you just start getting closer to something, or is it just random? You're taking the jobs that interest you.
I'd say it's not really like I would say a defined path.
Yeah.
The submersible, I really do think was divine intervention on that one. I really do, because I want to say like a couple of weeks before we received award, I mean, the company I was with had no project to work on, and I was actually on vacation, burning my last few hours. I mean, seriously, I was like at the house for about a week to a week and a half, and was wondering like, okay, what's next?
Yeah, what am I going to do after this?
I had the resume polished up. It was going out. I was making phone calls. I'm like, okay, it is time to move on to something else.
Right.
And my manager called me at the house and just said, hey, we won, and I need you at work on Monday.
Oh, wow.
And awesome. I was like, I know, and seriously. And I was in my backyard working in a flower bed. I hung the phone up and basically sat there with my dog and dang near cried. I was just like, thank God.
Yeah.
I really had no idea what I was going to do. Wife standing there like, you okay? I'm like, I'm totally fine.
Life is beautiful.
I was like, well, let's go out to eat.
Let's have steak.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the career path, especially in this town and in engineering, you kind of just go wherever the projects are. Okay. Not to say that you can't have a defined line. In other words, like there's some people that say like, I really want to work in NASA. I really want to do rockets. Okay, right. And they will go that way.
Right.
I was one of those. I did that for a little bit, and then you do kind of get tired of that. You're like, okay, I've been doing this for a little while. I want to find something different.
Yeah.
It was similar like with a Navy job. Like I said, we're still building them, and it is still interesting. But at the time, I was like, okay, I think it's starting to get time to move on, because I did that for 8 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. 8 years, long time.
Yeah, so, sure it is.
And I mean, other folks on the project started to move on, because it just changes. Everything changed. And so then I actually left the company for a bit and moved into commercial product design. Then I thought, well, I haven't done this before. This could be fun. I did that for a very short stint.
I guess it wasn't fun.
It was okay. But actually what happened is originally when I first started sending out resumes, some friends of mine in the government got my resume, but it took a while for them to do anything with it. And it was a strange turn of events in that while I was with this other commercial company, working late one night, my phone rings, and I get a phone, and they basically say, like, hey, got your resume here? And I'm like, yeah. And the guy that was talking to me, he was like, are you Jamie Drake? And I went, well, yeah, that's my name
Yeah.
from growing up.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And he goes, his name was Adam. And he was like, we worked together as interns. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, how are you doing? He's like, hey, I got your resume.
When can you start?
I know. He was like, you're actually what I need on the team, and I have a spot that's open, And it just kind of, it was one of those like, okay, all right, somebody's telling me something. Let me try this.
That's
so
cool.
I actually went out and worked for the government.
Okay.
And that's actually where I first met Adam. He was in the same building I was in.
Oh, you guys met back then?
There was some overlap.
Yeah. In other words, I actually met him when I joined the gym, but it's one of those like standing in class, we're looking at each other like, I've seen you
gotcha,
before.
Gotcha.
You know?
I know
Because
this.
it was a big place, big building.
It was a
long
big building.
Gotcha,
Lots of
gotcha.
wasps.
Waspices.
Damn wasps.
Everybody had like a cardboard tube or
Yeah.
some swatting device.
Oh, so these are actual wasps. I
Yes.
thought this was like some kind of technical term that was
No.
funny for you guys. These
like
are
the bugs that
stinging
sting.
wasps.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yes.
It weren't territorial like some wasps, but it's still a wasp.
Yeah.
It still has a sting.
I mean, it would be nothing to be sitting in your cube, typing out an email, and a wasp just drop down on your keyboard.
Yeah.
I would
And
not be able to work in that
start
place.
hunting around.
exactly. I mean,
I was there for like 3 months, not because of that. I was in a transition.
Uh-huh. You were left because of the wasp, didn't you?
I feared for my life.
Yeah.
I'm deathly afraid of anything with 6 legs.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I did that for a little while, and then COVID hit, and that, I mean, COVID just sucked. And
Sure did.
Yeah. So sitting at home, this, that, the other, I was like, okay, government's not working out. And then basically, past management that I worked for, they were like, hey, we have this hypersonic job coming in. We could really use your background, your expertise.
Yeah.
Can you come on? And I thought, well, I kind of miss doing the technical stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it's just kind of how the career goes.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
So you mind if I transition?
I was about
Yeah.
to too, so this is great.
So mechanical engineer.
Yep.
We could talk about DJ, but I'm keenly interested in your background. And I'm going to say background because you actively farm now, cattle farm.
I do.
But you didn't just dream this up one day.
No.
Saw YouTube videos. So tell us about that. How'd you get into that?
Sure. First, my cup is empty.
Yeah.
So-
This is a great.
It's a nice segue.
Is Adam's cup empty too?
It's close enough. to empty.
I believe it is. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I
All
like
right.
to support Yingling, but
There
go
you
ahead.
go. No, you're right. I didn't just fall into farming. Pretty much was planted. I grew up in it, and so my family's been in the area for a very long time.
Did your
Like,
did your family settle Huntsville? Basically, is what I heard.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So we could call it Drakeville and,
Drakeville.
and not feel bad about it.
So with at the risk of interrupting, when on my bachelor party, James offered we could use his place to go shoot guns.
That's
Yeah.
a fun thing to do on
So
land.
it's a great thing to do. So Caleb and Mabry say, "Hey, we're going to go to James's house and shoot." And I knew you pretty well, but not as well as I do now, obviously.
Yeah.
And so we're riding. I'm not going to say the road or anything to give away where James lives, but we're driving, and we turn onto this road, and I was like, "Well, that seems very similar to James's name."
I know.
And I was like, "This road is what is going on?" And then we passed a cemetery that I was like, "Well, that's James's name too." What's happening over this? So we were like, I asked somebody, and they were like, they didn't say it for sure, but they were like, we think James's family was like one of the first people to come here.
Yeah.
So what year, when was that?
Oh gosh, man.
What
that-
century?
Yeah, what-
Yeah, it was.
You don't have to give me I'm not going to fact check you.
very early, or no, mid 1800s.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, need to have you guys over to actually walk through the cemetery.
You
'cause
offered it that one day. I'd like to come
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
That'd be
it's beautiful, and yeah, in fact the land that I'm on right now, that's been in the family name since I would say mid to early 1800s.
So did you guys start farming it then? Is that the
Oh yeah,
Okay, so it's been
It's been
you
a
guys
farm.
moved here since you
Always
yeah.
been cattle, or is it
no.
variety? Or
Cattle started, I want to say probably in the 40s, is when they put cattle on that property.
Mhm.
Somewhere around there, it had been just a row crop farm.
Mhm.
Or in some areas, it was just hay,
Yeah. just
4
tell me,
cows.
Is that something that your dad brought on, the cattle? That feels
No, that actually, my uncle and my grandparents had a dairy.
Okay.
I don't even know if it still exists, but Metagold.
I'm not sure. No.
You ever heard of that?
Meadow Gold?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
the
heard
milk,
of that. Yeah.
Metagold milk, Metagold dairy. That wasn't us, but we supplied milk for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Downtown Huntsville used to have Metagold dairy right by the Civic Center.
Okay.
So where the that big parking lot by the South Hall,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was the dairy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was, these huge tanks with a great big cow sitting on top of it.
Oh,
And,
that's cool.
I know I give people directions. I'm like, well, when you go downtown, you're going to see the holy cow. Yeah.
You're going to want to take a left at the giant cow.
Exactly. But yeah, we used to supply milk to it.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was in the 80s. I would say mid 80s.
Oh, really? So
Uh,
you guys were dairy up until then?
Yeah.
That's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
more work than beef.
Oh, yeah. I was very little. Let's see. It was in the early 80s. They shut it down.
So you're under 10. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My grandfather died when I was 10. And my uncle, basically, somewhere in the early to mid 80s, they said, okay, the dairy is too labor intensive, hard to get help.
Yeah.
And
you can't leave ever.
No.
You can't leave?
Yeah, because
No.
the cow's got to be milked.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Otherwise, they
Yeah.
they dry up or they
Yeah.
get forget that. My wife's going to be mad at me now. I can't remember that thing they get.
Oh, like mastitis?
Yeah, mastitis. That's
okay.
it. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's smart
Yeah,
now?
For those of you listening, I just touched my head.
But yeah, we used to do that. Like I said, I was just a little kid running around playing in dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I do remember all that. And at that time, they pretty much took all the cows and said, "All right, we're just going to start selling off cows for beef."
What, do you know what kind of cows they were?
Oh yeah,
Were they
Herefords.
Holstein? Okay.
Yeah.
For the dairy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had some Holstein, but majority it was Hereford, white faces.
So my dad's is my great grandfather. So it's my dad's mom's parents. They were he had about 400 acres up in Ohio, and they were dairy farmers, but it was all Holstein. And then we talked about it last week. Again, you'll get to hear it. We had jerseys, and we like the
Yeah.
jerseys because that separation of the cream. But jerseys they have little cow, like Napoleonic complex.
Yeah,
They have attitudes,
Oh.
big, especially the bulls.
yeah.
That's another story for another podcast. But sorry,
Another story for another
Yeah.
podcast.
man.
I would say that we weren't that particular. It was one
Yeah.
of those like, hey, this cow has a nutter,
Yeah.
milk it.
If it's got milk, it's for us.
Exactly. They're like, we can sell that.
Did you ever see
And,
that scene in Kingpin?
Which one?
We'll talk about it after.
Oh yeah. I do.
Yeah.
So you don't do any like normal crops now, correct? You just or like crops.
Well, I lease. In other words, I've got one field that I've leased out.
So another
so,
farmer
yeah.
is taking care of that, and they're
Yeah.
doing
They do corn and beans,
okay,
soybeans.
But you are solely you just do
Yeah,
you
I just do beef cattle.
Beef cattle.
How much land do you have just for your cattle?
Not enough, actually. Let me think here. Probably about 80 acres is what I keep them on, and I'm running about 100 head. So, see, I'm oversubscribed
Mhm.
badly.
And you're not doing like management intensive grazing. They're just free grazing.
I've tried that.
That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and I did not see immediate results, and I thought I was stressing the herd too much.
Yeah.
And so I kind of abandoned that. And that's not to say it doesn't work. I'm sure it does.
You just gotta you have to be there almost all the time.
Yes, you do.
Because every 3 days or every 3 weeks, I think you're moving them.
Yes.
So you're
3
supposed
days,
to, are you supposed to
actually.
have
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
Are you supposed to have 1 acre per cow? Is that what?
Ideally, you want 2.
2. So that's what I was talking because Laura always wants
Yeah.
a horse, but she's like, you need 2 acres per horse to keep them alive.
Horses they ruin grass.
I don't want a horse.
Yeah, they ruin
I'd
grass.
take a cow before I take a horse.
Get her a goat.
Yeah.
I tried getting the.
Any kind of ruminant because you get the hooves that aerate the.
Oh, you
the
were telling me
grass.
about that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hooves, horse hooves just smash grass,
Yeah.
ruin it. They're eating machines. They don't add
They
any
are.
value.
Yeah. I mean, you ride them every once in a while.
And they bite you.
They
Yeah.
bite you?
They're
Yes.
ornery.
God, Horses are mean.
Get a donkey.
Okay,
I'll
you
have to
go
get
on
one.
Because they
Instagram.
fight coyotes.
Yeah, you go on Instagram and you see all these horse girls just petting and saying, "Oh, these," and yes, they are beautiful animals.
Yeah.
Mean. They
They're
will
mean.
bite.
Do you think I could choke a horse out?
No.
No, there's no way.
Like a 0% chance?
0% chance.
I know a horse that'd pay $1 to try.
I'll try it for a crisp dollar
I'll
bill.
give you a crisp dollar bill if you try.
Do you know a horse that I could try
You
choking?
might get hurt though.
You
You
think?
see the size of that neck? It's as big as my trunk.
I know. Have you seen the size of my arms?
Yeah.
I'll choke that
Yeah, I
sucker
have.
out.
Yeah.
All right, Adam. Yeah. I mean, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. But
It is amazing, those large animals, how strong they are, and they don't hold back at all.
oh, I know.
That's zero.
Oh, I've been flipped upside down by a damn cow.
I got tossed out of a field by a bull.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
You don't really
unpleasant.
understand how strong animals in nature are until you
Oh, yeah.
watch something happen. You're like, my God, how is that even possible?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they go 0 to 100 and like that, and you just don't even know it.
I want to get Laura some. I told you to get some fainting goats, but then
Yeah.
also get the shrieking goats. And so the shrieking goats just make the fainting goats faint all day long. It'd be fun to watch.
It's a
Yeah.
vicious cycle.
You never sleep though.
Yeah. Well, you'd end up having to kill the shrieking goats. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Goat
yes, you
meat isn't
would.
bad with a little vinegar.
Really?
Yeah.
I never had any goat.
I don't think I have.
I want to
had
try Wagyu beef. I haven't had that yet, but I heard it's unbelievable.
I know where you can buy some.
Is it from your farm?
No.
Dang it.
No.
Oh.
I don't sit out there massaging.
What are you doing? I'm just
I know.
massaging my meat.
Yeah.
Dang it, James.
Yeah. No, but there's a market in downtown. What is it? Poppy and Parliament. They have
Okay.
a market upstairs.
So I don't even know how you fit all this stuff into a day for you, but so you do beef cattle,
I do.
but you don't do it like, because I know I've asked you in the past, but you don't do like somebody doesn't come up to your farm and say, hey, I want to buy one of your cows
Right.
or your bull or whatever.
Yeah.
You sell all of them
To a lot, maybe.
to,
I do. Yeah. Carry them down to a sale barn.
okay.
Normally the one I go over is in the Arab.
Okay.
And yeah, it's basically just a big sale barn. And so what you do is that you'll carry a load of cows, you unload them, and it's in a big lot, and they all get tagged, get identified, and then they basically go up on auction, and anyone can buy them. I mean, you can go down there and buy one if you wanted to, and they go at auction prices, and a lot of times it's feedlots that will buy them.
Okay.
And so they'll buy them, carry them out to a feedlot, and yeah, they're going to end up, somewhere on a dinner plate.
Sure.
There are, other companies like, dog food.
Oh.
Yeah.
They buy the cows?
Yeah.
I guess I never put too much thought into that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, anybody can buy.
Yeah.
And that's where they enter into supply chain, really.
Yeah.
How old are your cows when you sell them, when you take them to auction?
Well, we do,
Under 2.
yeah,
What-
yeah, exactly. We do small size.
Okay.
And we do the very old, and so the mid range we keep.
Were you managing
so.
when the whole mad cow scare occurred from
Oh yeah,
UK?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We.
What are your thoughts on that?
I remember Mad Cow.
Yeah, you gotta love those
I have
Brits.
some thoughts, but
Yeah.
Oh, I want to hear this now. I didn't realize this was a big thing. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta love the Brits.
Yeah.
They got kind of crazy in their animal management.
So wait,
and it changed everything.
So this was primarily in the UK,
yeah,
That's where it started. Yeah.
that's where it
but
started.
it came here for sure. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's not like something that I was faking. Or
There was
No.
there was concern of it coming here,
Yeah.
and really, what mad cow is, when you feed an animal protein.
right.
Okay, I can't remember what it's called, but something happens inside the brain, and I don't know if
It's
it's
like a swelling.
it's swelling. Was it a bacteria?
It's
Yeah.
not those prions or whatever.
That's it.
Prions.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
could not remember the word.
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't know if that's bacteria or
'Cause
if it's a chemical
Or a virus.
or a
It's
protein.
Not, it's something, but it's like a virus. Please don't
Yeah, I know.
Don't get mad at me, but
it's just a podcast.
but-
It's
but
not.
I
I
think
mean,
that they
somewhere
can-
somebody's listening to this, going, "Oh my God,
yeah,
these idiots!"
But I think they're like that's what they're
they
worried.
say that every week. Are you kidding me?
Well, probably so.
exactly.
But they're worried about that in chronic wasting disease because you
Yeah.
can't cook, you can't kill them.
No.
There's no
Right.
temperature you can kill them at.
Right.
Yeah.
It's,
So-
it's going to be passed.
Yeah. So that's
That's basically what
part of-
happened. Is that and it happened. It started in Britain because they were trying to improve yield. Okay.
Okay.
So, and it's just like us in the gyms. Like, hey, I want to get bigger and better and this, that, the other.
So by the pound, right?
Yeah. So I need to up my protein.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, they needed to up the protein for the cattle to try and get them, the heavier the cow, the more money you get.
Sure, makes sense.
And so they were trying to up the protein on them. And the way they did that was basically with discarded animals.
Yeah.
So like
Ground up bone,
ground up chicken meal, you name it. And they would mix that in with the feed. Okay. So, and that's always kind of been the old, I don't know, wives' tale, tradition, whatever, is like you never feed a grass eater, you never feed
a
them
ruminant,
meat.
yeah.
Yeah, you never feed them meat because they're not supposed to have it.
They're literally designed to eat grass.
Yeah.
Their whole digestive system is tuned for that.
Yeah.
And if you have a farm in harmony where you have cattle that are eating grass, you got goats, another ruminant, you got chickens, you got pigs, and the bacteria, they kind of rotate around, and then they go to one of the terminal animals, right? So that's the design. And then but then if you take and you go to one of these feedlots, and they're paying by the pound, and that's the system. I mean, don't hate the player, hate the game. The game is, well, I need to fatten up, so they're going to feed them this high protein meal, and it gave them some problems. And then one of the contributors was the age of the cattle, right?
I don't know about that.
That's what I was told by the guy that we were taking our cattle for just our personal use when we had excess because we had them for milk, but then we would take one to the butcher to get butchered for ourselves, and we'd sell off a quarter here or a quarter there or whatever. Yeah. But the 2 years was the cutoff. Couldn't be any older than 2 years because of the whole mad cow thing. I don't know if that's accurate or if he was. Who knows what a butcher tells you is accurate?
Yeah, that's new to me.
Yeah.
But when all that started, every time we would carry a load to the sale barn, we had to, we got to sign and certify, no steroids, no antibiotics, no animal meal, basically no. The only protein that we gave them was plant-based.
So obviously some people shoot their cows up with steroids.
Oh, yeah.
Was that a product of, were they doing that while this mad cow was going on, or were they like, oh, we can't do this anymore, so now we'll try steroids, we'll shoot them full of steroids, or was it happening simultaneously to make the cows bigger? Oh, we can't feed them more protein like this because obviously mad cow is an issue. Do we have to find something else?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that I really don't know. It may have just been simultaneous.
They're doing it all the time to juice these things up as big as we can get them to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure. I mean, if you the incentive is to sell its gross weight, right? So you want a more weight to sell. So you're going to do whatever it takes as long as it's economical and it's worth the risk.
Did I ever tell you guys what I did in high school and into most of college?
No.
I worked for a bull semen trader.
Called it.
No, you didn't.
I promise you. It was called Anglican International. And so when you're talking about Jersey and
when I say AI, you know what I mean.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. I never had to do that.
Not artificial intelligence.
No, I never had to do that.
Do you know what all right, let me ask you this. Do you know what a sidewinder is?
A sidewinder? Yes. I don't know what a sidewinder is. Is it something you have to tell me off air?
No. It's to harvest.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They will when a bull is born and it's a line that you want to preserve.
Sure.
Okay. They will sling him so it grows sideways, so that when he mounts on a female,
it doesn't
go in.
Gotcha.
And it's hanging off on the side.
Sure.
And they will then be able to sleeve it.
Dude, this doesn't shock me at all because when I worked at that company, my boss's name was Pablo.
Pablo the sidewinder.
Yeah, he would be like, we just got some good product from an Italian bull. He's like, the phones are about to light up. And you'd have people from like Germany being like, do you have the semen from? And I'd have to, and these guys are buying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of it because they're like, this bull does, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Genetics. Yeah. So
just for the record.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, like my daughter does the social media stuff for us.
Yeah.
And so she's got to find some material to advertise for these shorts. So Pablo, the sidewinder, the phones are about to light up.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. The phones did light up.
I'm sure they did.
They were like, this Italian bowl. I mean, they had to have
Oh,
it.
yeah.
They had to have it. So I hear what you're saying.
Mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
Pasta fagioli was the bull's name.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, we paid, Dad and I paid, gosh, $2,400. When was that? I think I was still in college. We paid $2,400 back in the 90s for a bull. And his name was Sledgehammer.
That's the best name.
He was huge.
I bet.
Hey, I mean, gorgeous, huge,
It was
gargantuan.
a Hereford,
No, Black Angus.
Black Angus.
That's when we were changing the herd. We were like, okay, we've started to. I don't know if you guys remember or not, but there was a period where like Angus beef kind of took off.
Yeah.
It was,
Like
even Wendy's was
90s.
saying, "Oh my God, our hamburgers are Angus beef."
It still goes on now. People are like, oh, it's
Yeah.
Angus. Yeah.
Yeah, so we jumped on that.
It's
We're
the
like-
marbling. It's
Yeah.
supposedly.
And we're like, okay, let's go to Angus. And so we jumped in, both feet, hook, line, sinker, you name it. And we're like, okay, let's get a decent bull. And so we acquired Sledgehammer.
You acquired the bull Sledgehammer?
Yeah,
Okay,
He was-
not his.
yeah,
Okay.
not his
You
line.
didn't do AI. You just
No,
you
we
guys
just bought
had-
the
You just
bull.
bought
Yeah.
the bull. Gotcha.
Yeah, we're not that high tech. We
Yeah.
really aren't.
That's a
And,
lot of work. It's better just let it happen.
Exactly.
Get yourself a couple bulls and just.
Yeah.
I know. It's kind of like our fences. They're on the honor system.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know this. Bulls will jump fences.
Oh yeah.
They will jump fences to get where they need to go if they need
Gotcha.
to. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. They jump.
Yeah.
It is amazing. I've never seen it, but it is amazing that when it happens, you're like,
They actually
well, surely
clear
they
it?
just push through. Yes.
Oh, my neighbors just walked right through it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Well,
Yeah.
they'll push through too.
Yeah.
They will clear, like how high?
So I had it was about 4.5 feet T-post
Yeah.
God.
with that farm fencing, the
Mm-hmm.
4-inch square stuff. And I had a couple of cows and heat, and I had a bull named King. And I came out, and King was in the pasture. We were trying to keep them separated.
Yeah.
But King was in there, so I'm like, well, surely. And I was brand new at this. So surely he pushed through the fence.
Yeah.
Walk up and down the fence. No, he jumped over it.
Golly.
And then so the next month or so, he jumps the fence again to get where he needed to go.
Yeah. He did jump the fence, and don't call me Shirley.
Yeah.
Surely.
What do you have now? Do you have Black Angus now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Still
Angus.
Black Angus.
There's still a Hereford line because I still have a couple of whiteface.
Mm-hmm.
But predominantly, I would say 80% is Black Angus.
Okay.
So, and I just noticed this weekend I got another red cow that showed up out of nowhere. A
Probably
calf.
from the Angus, right? Because they have, there's another.
Yeah, there's a red Angus.
You mean showed up
Um,
like born?
Yeah,
Okay.
it
not
was a
just like-
calf.
you weren't just
and-
like, oh,
it's
look
a
at this cow
recessive
just
gene
get-
that
I
just
know.
popped in.
I guess so.
So it's
but
red. It's
yeah.
red haired.
Yeah, I looked
Now,
at
does
that
your
one.
neighbor have a Red Bull? I mean,
No, no, it doesn't. Believe me, because when I saw it, I was like, all right,
yeah.
all right, there's some shenanigans
Yeah.
going on here.
Just been messing with my
I know.
The bull's like, whose kid is that?
I know.
Look at me.
I looked at the mama cow like, you slut.
You look at the mailman. He's got red hair.
I know.
You're like, hey,
Hey, what are you doing?
you stay away from my cows,
Yeah.
buddy.
But yeah, predominantly Angus, and but yeah, that bull Sledgehammer, he was so big. We kept him for about a year and a half, and we had to sell him. He was too big. He was
I
hurting.
was just wearing out. Yeah.
He was hurting the females.
What does that
And,
mean?
Hurting.
Hurting them?
H-U-R.
Hurting
Oh, yeah.
hurting them.
Yeah.
I thought you meant hurting them. I was
No.
like trapping them.
No, like breaking legs.
Gotcha. He was
Yeah.
too big.
Too
Gotcha.
big.
So what do they do with him when he's like that? They just sell his line. They just
Oh yeah.
sell
Well, we carried him to the barn, and we're like, hey, and when we got him on the trailer, which was a fun story, but we carried him and we told him, was like, look, here's his papers, here's his line, he's gonna go good, and
Yeah.
he brought high price because
Sure.
everybody's like, yeah, we got to have that bull.
Yeah, gotta have that. Bull.
And you got to get a fresh bull anyway, so you don't
You
have
do.
inbreeding.
You do, and in fact, I'm actually at that point now.
Yeah.
Oh, can I help you pick out the next one?
Sure.
I have a little bit of experience.
I know.
That's right. That's true.
That's true. Call Pablo.
Call Pablo the sidewinder.
Yeah.
The phones are going to light up.
The phones.
Yeah, but yeah, been cattle farming. Yeah, like my uncle, my grandparents were doing it. My dad took it over, and then Dad has kind of passed that on to me.
So are you going to do this, like there's work that you do to pay bills and you enjoy it, but then there's an end of life to that.
Yeah.
And you do things that you want to do. Are you going to continue farming until?
Well, the funny thing about it, growing up, especially when I was working fences with my father, I was standing out there like, there's no way on God's green earth I am going to keep doing this crap.
I'm going to quit. This is so fast, Dad.
I know. And then in the dead of winter when I'm out there feeding hay, like, and here I am killing it. You know, I'm right back where I started.
You're just talking to yourself.
Oh, I am.
I told him I was going to quit.
I know. Seriously, every time, especially like when I fall down in the mud, I'm like,
or you get bumped.
yeah.
Am I working hard enough for you, Dad?
I know. I was like, this is great. I love it.
Have you ever punched a cow?
All the time.
Yeah.
You punched it?
Oh, yes.
All the time.
The nose. Go for the nose.
Yes.
Anything else is too hard and you break your hand.
The bowl, too?
I broke my thumb once. So
no, our current bull knocked my dad down into the feed trough.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. It was scary, but at the same time, extremely comical.
Was it like, are you okay?
Well, because it's one of I don't know how your listeners are going to feel about this, but he knocked my dad down, and as my dad's going down, he's turned and looking at the bull in the eye. As he's falling, he goes, "You son of a bitch." He just lands in the
slow
truck.
motion
It was. And I'm off at the tractor, and I'm like, "You okay?" So anyway, I run over there, and the big bull is getting his head down on my dad.
Oh, so he's like followed him down.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
He's like, I pushed you down.
Well, because dad was actually holding a feed sack.
I got you.
And so the bull was going after that.
Sure.
But, you know, he was on top of my dad in a trough.
Yeah.
You got to assert dominance now.
Exactly. And so I run over, and the bull just kind of looks at me like, what do you want? And, I mean, I roundhoused him and right in the nose. And because, just like Adam said, who's the meaner dog?
You have to assert dominance.
Yeah.
So
it's just like real life. You have to assert dominance.
So when you punch a bull in the face, does it recognize that you're the alpha? Like
yes, it
immediately?
does. Yeah? It stops and it checks up real quick.
Interesting.
And he took a couple steps back and was like, he started licking his nose like,
I
know. And I could tell, I was like, he is sizing me up right now.
He's like, you want to go, bro?
Exactly.
Did I tell you the story where I punched our cow, our milk cow?
No.
So I'm driving home. So I had milk cows. So I'm driving home from work. Long day at work. Our oldest had moved. He was in college. So I'm driving home, pulling in the driveway, and I see my wife taking our milk cow. I milk her twice a day. And the milk cow was kind of obstinate and throwing her head around, as she was usually wont to do, to take her out of the barnyard. And she's throwing her head around. And, like, I see my wife flailing around. And there's a switch that flips on when you see a loved one getting tossed around like that. So I, like, come to a skidding stop. I jump out. I'm, like, in my Army flight suit, jump the fence, grab Blossom by the rein.
Blossom.
And bam.
He punches Blossom.
Punch Blossom square between the eyes. And I'm rearing back to do it again. This time she flinched. And I popped. And because she flinched, I hit her brow. And broke my thumb. It was all swollen for weeks.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm walking away, and the kids are standing there. They're like, they can't believe what's going on. I said, nobody messes with my woman.
I hope your rooms are clean.
Exactly.
Go clean the house.
Yeah. It's at that point everyone does with Dad. So.
Yeah.
Oh, he's willing to punch a cow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, all the time when we work them. And the same thing is the bull that I have now, he's actually so wide, not necessarily tall, but wide. Mm-hmm. He doesn't fit in the chute. And so when we work him through and I got to give him vaccinations, he doesn't fit. And so we more or less have to kind of clamp everything down around him, and it requires guys just holding tension.
Yeah.
And the last time we did it, I'm standing there with a needle that's probably about 3 inches long. I look across at my buddy. I said, "Hey, you holding him?" Yeah, and I said, because I'm about to light him up.
The phones are about to light up.
The phones are about to light up.
Yeah, sure enough. I mean, what's funny is that I think he knew what was coming, because as soon as I'm, pulling the syringe back, you see him, he turns and looks at me like, you may try.
Yeah. Good luck. So you don't have staff, do you? Like, do you have people that come to work every day?
No.
It's
no.
just
It's
you,
just you.
and then if you need help, you ask.
Oh, yeah. I ask friends.
You never ask me, but it's fine.
No.
Um,
it's coming.
Great.
That was the trade podcast, farmhand.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to come help.
Yeah.
He's got experience.
So
I think we need to get Andrew, dress him up in a clown outfit, put him out there.
we could probably get him to do it. That would be pretty funny.
I will pay you one Christmas.
If we're like, well, actually, the way to do it is be like, Andrew, James needs help on the farm. He'd be like, he's like, and you're the strongest guy that he knows, so he needs your help.
Very fast, very spry.
And
he's
Andrew
young.
gets there, and James just has a clown outfit. He's like, Andrew, I'm gonna need you to put this on.
With
the
these
uniform.
funny big shoes.
Yeah, it's a female medium. You're the only one that I know that would fit in this.
Yeah.
Don't mind the red nose and the wig.
Yeah, cows love you.
So it's gonna be pretty fun.
Yeah, but no
And it's
staff.
essential.
So it's just you,
Yep.
like Monday, Tuesday, but you obviously have friends come over and help.
I do.
Stuff.
I do. I got a lot of close friends that help. Got a couple of guys that neighbors basically grew up with, and they help all the time.
So Adam, you kind of touched on it, but I asked, like, is that gonna be something that you continue on after you retire? Just keep farming just because you like it?
Yeah, I mean that is one of the things. Like I was saying, is that I was even laughing at myself just this week I was trying to get rid of everything, and yet here I am all of a sudden like going massively in debt, buying equipment.
What's the driver of that? Because so your family's been here for generations.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, I don't want to speak for her, but I assume that feeds into it a little bit, that like, hey, my dad was a farmer, his dad was a farmer.
Yeah.
We've owned this land. I do not want to give it up.
Yeah. That is. I mean, that's a huge driver. And on times, when Dad and I are sitting on the back porch or whatever, sitting around talking, he always tells me, he's like, please don't sell this. Please don't give it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, there is that factor.
Yeah. And there's something to that. I mean, that means a lot.
Oh, very much. And but it is truly enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful place.
I'm sure it's rewarding.
It is. And it was just last night. I mean, I was sitting at the back of the house just watching cows go grazing by, and I was sitting there thinking, like, well, everybody loves fish because it's nice and relaxing. I'm like, well, I kind of have the same thing, just on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, your fish require a lot more work.
That is true. There's no sprinkling food.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. Let's say you come into some money, lottery or whatever.
That's a good dream.
And you're going to do something. Like you have to do something. You can't just sit around and go to the gym, although that would be a fun life.
I
just go to the gym.
I probably would do that.
But do you continue engineering or you continue farming? What's more rewarding?
I could see doing like a part-time gig with engineering. And I even questioned that, to be honest with you. 'Cause you're kind of touching on a subject that I've been thinking hard about for a while, and that, when you reach a certain age, you really start wondering, like, okay, is it time for a second career?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I think I really want to do something different. I mean, totally different. And so I would say I would probably dial down the engineering and focus more and give the farming a go, and if possible, seek out other adventures.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there something in your brain that you think you could mesh your ability in engineering and your ability in farming to mesh them together somehow? I don't know exactly what that would be, but like
wine
something.
making.
Wine making.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
You're like, I know how to engineer. I know how to farm.
Yeah.
Wine.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, you got to have equipment for making wine.
Sure.
And so that
and the right soil.
And the right soil. And I've tried a couple of times.
This may be an off-topic conversation we can have another time, but Chris Dwyer.
Oh yeah.
is huge.
Oh, we've talked.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you guys haven't talked about that, you probably should talk about
No,
that.
I'm about to hire that boy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he probably would do it.
Yeah.
It sounds like you need a general manager.
I do.
I'm available.
Okay. Sounds great.
Yeah, the salary will be very modest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
$1.
What? Yeah, so I mean, I was very interested in talking to you specifically because you literally do. So we make fun of you when you show up late to the gym.
Oh, every day.
But then
As we should.
but then in private, we'll be
You
like,
would feel bad if we didn't, right?
yeah,
Exactly.
So we make fun of people that show up late, but then privately we're like, James literally takes care of a farm in the morning,
Yeah.
and then is 5 minutes late to the gym. We're all like, "Oh, here's James."
I know. You come to the 6:30 class?
Yeah.
You got extra sleep.
Yeah, here's James. Oh, he looks super rested, rolling in here like a loser. And then you've been like, I've been up since 2 a.m. farming. And you're like, oh, Mr. Big Farmer.
Well, it's like last year. I had a cow in the backyard that I was bottle feeding. A calf. He was orphaned. And so I was trying to take care of him. And I wasn't saying anything about it. And Laura, your wife, asked me, she goes, what is your problem? I go, Laura, I have to bottle feed a calf every morning, and today he wouldn't get off the nipple.
I bet Laura's a little more sympathetic to that now.
I know. It's along those lines. I'm like, I do this crap. And she's like, what? And I remember that last year. There were a couple of times I'm like, all right, little buddy, I really need you to hurry up here.
Suck it on down.
I know. Come on, I gotta go.
Phones are about to light up.
Exactly.
We're doing replace sledgehammer.
Yeah.
We're doing deadlifts today, and Daddy wants to go.
So I mean, it is a very some people show up late, and you're like, this person sucks, and then other people show up like you show up late, and you're like, I mean, James just did more this morning than I'm going to do all day long, and then he has to go to work after this.
Well, let me tell you, that's not every day. I know, but
It's
seriously,
every day.
truth in reporting.
Don't ruin it for us.
Nobody knows.
No, there's several mornings I'm like, oh, I guess I need to get going.
You drive the farthest. You also wake up earlier than all of us to take care of your farm, and you're sometimes only 45 minutes late. That's pretty good.
I know.
Well, the brief is useless, and
It's
Jeremy's
pretty much-
always talking anyway. So, like,
Yeah. What are you going to show up to be interrupted by Jeremy while you're trying to listen?
I swear.
Yeah.
well, we appreciate you coming here and sharing more with us. It's
thank
been
you.
Really,
Yeah.
really, and you
Thoroughly
are a
enjoyed it.
genuinely nice guy.
Yeah.
Hey,
I really
appreciate that,
appreciate
man.
your
Yeah.
friendship.
Yeah, no, thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
we do appreciate you coming on. So,
And our first guest.
and our first guest. This is
I know. I
and-
hope it works out.
and James will be wearing a T-shirt moving forward. Not everybody gets one of these specific
No,
T-shirts.
not even my wife has one.
Yes, but these are hot commodities. James is going to have a T-shirt. We are going to have some Mishmash Men T-shirts up for sale, but James has a special quote in the back, so you can ask him about that when you see him. But we do appreciate you coming on and being
Absolutely.
our first guest, and it was super fun.
Hey,
So,
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Seriously, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was-
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime, man. All right,
It's enjoyable.
it's been fun, guys. Until
right.
next week, this has been Mishmash Men. Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.